Good afternoon and good morning to everyone out there. Here's on another episode of Before Coffee. We're going to wake up Rog and we're going to find out what's going on in the world today.
How you doing?
Hey, morning.
Good morning. Let me turn my power on here. Dark here yet.
Power time.
Yeah, it's pitch dark here. Eyes aren't open yet, so.
We said the same thing yesterday.
Yeah, this is fortunate. It's cold and dark. There's some light. There we go.
All right, we're all here. We're all fixing our hair. I just did that as well.
Sort of awake. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello, I can hear you. All right. What's going on today?
What's going on today on... What is it, Wednesday?
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Wednesday. Let's get some stories.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Today on Before Coffee, Adidas backtracks on opposition to Black Lives Matter trademark request. Sportswear company has initially said three-stripe design would create confusion with its own logo.
Pussy Riot named Woody Guthrie Prize for 2023 honoree set to perform Riot Days for the first time in U.S.
French protesters and police clashed in marches against pension changes. Police used tear gas and water cannon against hooded protesters on the margins in some cities.
In news involving another kind of pussy, Mike Pence must testify to January 6th grand jury, judge rules.
Okay. Amsterdam tells young British men who want a messy weekend to stay away. In bid to reduce nuisance behavior, ads will be triggered if people search online for terms such as stag party, Amsterdam.
And that was it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, and we pick our final 4 picks in men's and women's brackets, and we have some historical stuff today on the Wednesday, March 29th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Bye.
All right, looking at Adidas here. Adidas has withdrawn a request to the U.S. authorities to block the Black Lives Matter movement from trademarking a design featuring the 3 parallel stripes. The German sportswear company has said in a filing on Monday that the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation design would create a confusion with the famous branding Adidas has been using for more than 70 years. However, on Wednesday, Adidas made an abrupt U-turn, dropping its opposition to the Black Lives Matter National Global Network Foundation trademark application. Adidas will withdraw its opposition to the Black Lives Matter trademark application as soon as possible, a spokesman said, without offering an explanation to the decision. Black Lives Matter was founded after an unarmed black teenager, Trayvon Martin, was shot by the Neighborhood Watch volunteer George Zimmerman in 2012, and rose to prominence during the global movement protests and that followed the killing of George Floyd by a white police officer in 2020. That was 2020? Damn! I thought that was 2018. God, that year was a mess, let's be honest. The German manufacturer said it had used its 3-stripe logo from as early as 1952, and that the design had since gained international fame and tremendous public recognition. The company added that the consumers familiar with its goods and services are likely to assume that those offered under the applicant's mark originate from the same source, or that they are affiliated, connected, or associated with or sponsored by Adidas. Adidas has filed more than 90 lawsuits and signed more than 200 settlement agreements related to the three-stripe trademark since 2008. In January, a New York jury found the luxury designer Tom Brown's stripe pattern did not violate Adidas' trademark design. So that probably was going to happen again here. So they just decided to withdraw, I think. Some interesting news and business here from Europe.
Trademark news. Right. I guess my story, right? Mm-hmm. Sweet. Pussy Riot. This is from Variety. Tanya Garcia. It feels fitting to be awarded in the spirit of Woody. I think he would love Pussy Riot's anti-fascist message, says Pussy Riot's creator Nadia Alakhanakova. Pussy Riot, the Russian feminist protest music and performance art group, will be accepting the 2023 Woody Guthrie Prize on May 6th in Tulsa's Cain's Ballroom. The evening will conclude with Pussy Riot's first ever U.S. performance of Riot Days, a multimedia show that showcases the group's music with documentary footage and political commentary. Member Maria Masha Alexina and creator Nadia Alakhanakova will accept the prize on behalf of Pussy Riot, which also will be represented by members Olga Borisova and Diana Burkott. Following the presentation by Nora Guthrie, Woody Guthrie's daughter, the group will be interviewed by Robert Santelli, Executive Director of the Bruce Springsteen Archive and Center for American Music. The Woody Guthrie Prize goes to artists whose work falls in line with the famed American folk singers, songwriters, and musical social activism in the form of music, film, literature, dance, and other mediums. Past recipients of the award include Joan Baez, Chuck D, Chris Christopherson, Norman Lear, John Mellencamp, Pete Seeger, Bruce Springsteen, and Mavis Staples. It feels fitting to be awarded in the spirit of Woody. I think he would love Pussy Riot's anti-fascist message, added Alakhanakova. We don't really do folk, but we really don't do punk either. We simply scream and protest as loud as we can. We hope we can show others they can do the same. Like Woody said, any fool can make something complicated. Our message is clear and simple. Anyone can be a Pussy Riot. Riot, riot, resist.
Yeah.
She continued. Gotta get it off, man. All I can add a quick reminder to Vladimir Putin and anyone who supports his Z regime. All you fascists bound to lose. Pussy Riot, formed in Moscow in 2011, grew notoriety for their activism and guerrilla music performances against the Putin regime. These efforts have landed several Riot members in Russian prisons for speaking out on human rights issues in their home country. Among their many triumphs, the group has been proactive in securing several avenues to help fight the fight, including the 2022 creation of the Ukraine DAO, an NFT on the Ukrainian flag that raised more than $7 million in only 2 days after Russia's first military invasion. I'm trying to build networks of like-minded communities and make sure that as a human being, I'm a tool powerful enough and effective to fight Putin, Alakhanakova told Variety last March. The goal is to become Putin's biggest pain in the ass I can. As artists who, like Woody Guthrie, have the courage of their convictions, there are no contemporary artists more worthy of this recognition than Pussy Riot, said Patty Shaw, director of the Woody Guthrie Center. They have paid a very personal price for speaking their minds, the most serious issues of our time, and yet continue to fight for justice and freedom. Proceeds from the event, which also happens to be the Woody Guthrie Center's 10th anniversary, will benefit the nonprofit center, which opened in April 2013. The awards presentation is one of several celebrations that will take place on May 5th and 7th. There will be additional free concerts from the Secret Sisters, Margaret Glaspie, Jonathan Brooke, and Hot Toast Music, plus a maker's market and food trucks. There's your story about the riot of pussies. Your story.
Oh, right. I just thought it was so funny how you recorded that one line, like the anyone can be a riot, but you went anyone can be a the most monotone way anyone can be a rioter. Oh, right. Speaking of riots, French protesters and police clash in marches against pension changes. That's right. I feel like the 15th week I've been reporting on this story on protesters in Paris, and good for them, honestly, that they've been keeping it going this long, because we all know we have short attention spans these days, and we just want, okay, whatever, and move on. These guys are not moving on. Yeah. While demonstrations in Paris and Nantes were peaceful, with the majority of demonstrators chanting and calling for the pension changes to be scrapped, on the margins in some cities, men in masks or hoods clashed with police. Called the Black Bloc, famously. I don't know why they're acting they don't know what a black bloc is. In Paris, police fired tear gas and launched a charge after some people at the head of the protest, dressed in black with their faces covered, yes, a black bloc, raided and looted in supermarket and started a fire as the march approached Place de la Nation in the east of the city. At least 22 people were arrested in the capital by the afternoon, Paris police said. In the western city of Nantes, at least that's how I think you say it, protesters threw projectiles at security forces who responded with tear gas, AFP reported. A bank branch was set on fire and rubbish bins were set alight near a court building. Police in Lyon in southeastern France used a water cannon. In Lille, police used tear gas after bus stopped or smashed. Amazing that so many different cities are protesting this. In Bordeaux, some hooded people lit fires and projectiles were thrown. In Toulouse, police used water cannons. Turnout at the street protests across France appeared to be slightly lower than last day of the strikes and protests last Thursday. The Interior Ministry said that 740,000 people took part in the protest across France. Nearly 2 weeks after the government pushed the new pension law through using a special provision that bypassed the parliament vote, unions have vowed to continue a mass protest to get the government to back down. Macron refuses to abandon the increase in pension age, which was a central part of his manifesto before he was elected to a second term last year. At least he's sticking to his guns, I guess. Strikes affected transport, the energy sector, schools, and civil aviation on Tuesday. About 15% of service stations in France are short of petrol because of refinery strikes. Protesters in Nantes, western France, blocked access to roads to the city, creating congestion early in the day. The FIDL High School Union said 500 high schools had been barricaded and closed across the country. Dozens of university buildings are also barricaded and closed. The Eiffel Tower was closed because staff were striking. Rubbish collectors in Paris are to suspend a 3-week strike that has seen thousands of tons of garbage accumulate across half of the city. The CGT union said that it was allowed to coordinate with workers so we can go on strike again even more strongly. Right, so Paris is full of trash, on fire, and everything's fine.
Don't go to Paris this spring. It's gonna stink.
It always stinks. Sorry to tell you this now.
I've only been there once. That was the airport, and that was basically 70 miles from here.
Yeah. At the Paris March, Yves, a former teacher and factory worker who retired at 59, said, "People are demonstrating on the street because citizens aren't being listened to. We're afraid of being tear gassed, but the police should be protecting us. The social state and social safety net is disappearing," said Francois, a social worker who's due to retire in 3 months at 63. "Now I have to work for another extra year because of this asshole." Really? No, he didn't say that.
They're not going to grandfather him in. That's bullshit.
No, I think they probably will. The street must be listened to, which isn't the case so far. It's not only pensions, it's about people's whole professional lives and working conditions. But the government spokesman Olivier Véran said the pension law was no longer up for discussion. It's in the past now. No kidding.
Yeah, get over it, you old bastard. You gotta work longer. Vive la France! Okay, let's, are we done burying them?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Mike Pence must testify to January 6th grand jury judge rules. This is from New York Times. Byline Ellen Frewer and Maggie Haberman, who's, I have my opinions on her. Had a lot of secrets she just held on to until she could make a book deal. Anyway, so this is from Maggie the book deal Haberman. Federal judge in the New York Times. The federal judge has ordered former Vice President Mike Pence to appear in front of a grand jury investigating former President Trump attempts to overturn the 2020 election, largely sweeping aside two separate legal efforts by Pence and Trump to limit his testimony, according to two people familiar with the matter. The twin rulings on Monday by Judge James E. Boasberg in federal court in Washington were the latest setbacks to bids by Trump's legal team to limit the scope of questions that prosecutors can ask witnesses and close to him in separate investigation into his efforts to maintaining his grip on power after his election defeat to his handling of classified documents after he left office. In the weeks leading up to the Capitol attacks by a pro-Trump mob in January 6, 2021, Mr. Trump repeatedly pressed Mr. Pence to use his ceremonial role overseeing the congressional count of electoral votes to block or delay certification of his defeat. Prosecutors have been seeking to compel Mr. Pence to testify about Trump's demands on him, which are thoroughly documented by aides to Pence in testimony last year. A House Select Committee that investigated the January 6 riot and what led up to it. This month, Trump's lawyers asked Judge Boasberg's predecessor as Chief Judge of the court, Beryl Howell, to limit Pence's testimony by claiming that certain issues were off limits because of executive privilege, which protects certain communications between the president and some members of the administration. It doesn't protect illegal crap. I'm so tired of this crap. Executive privilege. Sorry. At the same time, lawyers for Pence asked to limit his testimony by arguing that his role as president of the Senate was protected by the executive branch, and including the Justice Department under the Constitution's speech or debate clause. That provision is intended to protect the separation of power. While Judge Boasberg issued a clear-cut ruling against Trump's attempts to assert executive privilege, his ruling on the speech or debate clause was more nuanced, according to a first person familiar with the matter. Judge affirmed that the idea that Pence had some protection under the speech or debate based on his role in overseeing the certification election inside the Capitol January 6, but the Judge Boasberg also said that Mr. Pence would have to testify to the grand jury about any potential illegal acts committed by Trump. A person familiar with the matter said. The ruling by Judge Hall, who stepped down as chief judge on March 17th, paved the way for grand jury testimony of Mr. Meadows, Mark Meadows, one of his deputies, Dan Scavino, Robert O'Brien, who served in National Security Advisor, John Ratcliffe, the former Director of National Intelligence, and Stephen Miller, a human pile of crap.
Yeah.
Mr. Trump, I don't like Mr. Trump and some witnesses in the election required to try for months to limit their scope in grand jury testimony, promoting a behind-the-scenes battle waged, like all issues involving grand juries, in sealed court filing and closed-door hearings. In one of his final acts, Judge Hall issued a similar ruling of the classified documents acquiring. She ordered that Mr. Evan Corcoran, a lawyer of Mr. Trump, would have to testify to grand jury conducting the investigation in spite of the assertion of attorney-client privilege he had made on Mr. Trump's behalf. Keep an eye on this story.
About to see what's gonna go down. Yes. Speaking of going down, the city of Amsterdam is geotargeting campaign to tell young British men wanting a messy weekend to stay away. Research has suggested these Brits aged 18 to 35 and Dutch men of a similar age tend to cause more nuisance in the red light district, with stag parties, pub crawls, and all-night drink and drug benders making life unbearable for residents. The online campaign, which starts this week, will be triggered when people in Britain enter terms in search engines such as Stag Party Amsterdam, Cheap Hotel Amsterdam, Pub Crawl Amsterdam. They will see warning video adverts describing the risk and consequences of excessive alcohol and drug taking, fines, a criminal record, hospitalization, and permanent health damage. Sofiane Mbarki, deputy mayor for the economic affairs and the inner city, said the city was doing more than others in Europe to reject irresponsible growth. Visitors are still welcome, but not if they misbehave and cause a nuisance. As a city, we are saying we'd rather not have this, so stay away, he said in a press statement. The campaign will start with Britain, then be expanded to the Netherlands and beyond, and side by side, How to Amsterdam Drive will include posters, screens in hotel lobbies, and hosts approaching people to remind them of their manners. The city's visitor economy vision includes an earlier closing for both brothels and bars starting this weekend, a ban on cannabis smoking in public in central Amsterdam from May, and controversial plans to move the red light district partly to an erotic center. Marco Lemmers, chief executive at Conscious Hotels, said he would prefer a positive campaign in the style of Switzerland. You could show people that they will get in trouble with certain behavior with a bit of humor, but you shouldn't act like that everyone here who comes here for a wedding is a criminal, he said. You should read what the Dutch get up to on Costa Brava in Spain. Has Amsterdam even thought of potential collateral damage for the Netherlands as a destination as a whole? When Guardian visited the city centre on Tuesday afternoon, young male British tourists were not to be found, although there were Frenchmen, Belgians, Italians, and Spaniards shopping for cannabis. But Keely Harris, 23, visiting the red light district from Essex, thought the campaign was a good idea. My cousin came and stayed in a hotel here and didn't get much sleep, she said. It was noisy all night. As somebody who went to university in Amsterdam, I think I'm kind of divided on this topic, okay? For the one part, I think all the things that are a nuisance, it kind of makes the city, right? Instead of some other place, you know? Like any other place, right? The fact that people are smoking cannabis and the red light district, all that stuff is what makes Amsterdam Amsterdam. And I think removing that will just make the city like any other place, and then no one will care.
Feel like Boringville, you know, Holland. Hey, come to Boringville, do nothing. Oh, that's every place.
But also, I've been in Amsterdam when the Dutch team and a British team and a Dutch soccer team or football team were against each other, and that was very scary. All of the streets were full of men just screaming,
hooligans.
God save the hooliganism. That was pretty scary because I just wanted to go to the Central Station and go home, but I couldn't actually walk my normal route because if there's a bar, there were 50 men outside the bar screaming in the street. Riot cars everywhere. But is that because of the red light district? No. That's because of football, but you know, they're not going to cancel football.
More sports news. We can pick our final fours. So we start the ladies' games are Friday, I believe. Ladies' games are Friday, so they're first. We got LSU versus Virginia Tech. Who we got? We got the LSU Tigers, Virginia Tech Hokies.
See, I voted for both of these teams before. I'm just gonna go LSU.
I'm going LSU too because I'm going to go Iowa over South Carolina in the upset. And in the final, I'm going with Iowa. So you make your last two.
Okay. I guess I'll go with LSU. I think South Carolina's going to disappoint me again. So they're going to win.
They lost their Maryland, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy if LSU won the whole thing though? That's what I'm going to go with.
All right. So we've got diverging picks there. The men's games are easy too.
Yeah, we're about to see who sucks.
These are on Saturday. We have Florida Atlantic Owls at San Diego State. Oh yeah, I didn't give the names of the teams over there. We got the Iowa Hawkeyes and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Anyway, back in the men's bracket. Florida Atlantic Owls, San Diego State Aztecs.
All right, I'm gonna go with San Diego against FAU, even though you've been touting FAU this whole time. But maybe Florida. It would be cool if it was Florida versus Florida in the final, wouldn't it? And I'm going to go UConn And then UConn's gonna win. I'm gonna go with that.
So, yeah. Okay, so you got Boca Raton, Florida against San Diego State on Saturday. So I'm going to take Florida Atlantic again because they win a lot of games. They just don't know how to lose. That's why it's about winning. You get to the end of the game and you win the game. That's all it's about. Miami, Florida, I'm going to take them. I'm going to take the Hurricanes. I'm going to take the All-Florida final. Is that what you did too?
No, I didn't take any of the Florida teams.
Oh, okay.
But it would be funny if both the Florida teams do win, and then it's Florida versus Florida.
So I got the Hurricanes and the Huskies, and I got the Hurricanes, and I've got Florida Atlantic winning the whole thing. Just to be totally... How many people had Florida Atlantic, even in the top 50 at the beginning of the season? They're not in a major conference. No, where the hell is it? So we're going to have Miami against Boca Raton in the final. That would be like just one little strip along the edge of the Florida championship.
Yeah.
One little strip of beach along Florida because nobody lives inland. Orlando. All right. Your story for music news or entertainment news?
We're culture, media news, whatever you want to call it. I found a really good, interesting article on how France became obsessed with Japanese anime. In the 1970s, giant robot cartoons sparked a love affair with French fans, including Emmanuel Macron. Now the country is the world's largest manga importer and home to a new Murakami film. You might say that Vincent van Gogh was one of the first Japanese pop culture otaku geeks in Europe. With the 19th century Japanism craze in full swing, he converted ukiyo woodblock prints like modern-day collectors hoard rare manga. Japanese art deeply influenced his work, from his flattering of perspective to his bold lines. He went to the south of France hoping to encounter the same radiant nature and spiritual freshness that figured in his East Asian fantasia. Upon seeing Katsushika Hokusai's The Great Wave of Kananawa, which is very famous, you've probably seen it. It's that huge, nice, like Japanese giant tsunami picture. It's very popular. A supposed inspiration for his own The Starry Night, he raved to his brother Theo in a letter, "The waves are claws! The boat is caught in them! You can feel it!" But he probably said it in Dutch, so not in English. Maybe he wrote in French. The new animation Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman by France-based animator Pierre Folds shows that the French love affair with Japanese visual art is still throbbing. Anime and manga are a worldwide cultural force, but nowhere near more so than in France. An unbelievable 55% of comics sold there in 2021 were manga, according to consumer research body GfK. A beguiling mashup of 6 Haruki Murakami short stories set in the aftermath of 2011's Tohoku earthquake, Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman, emerged foremost from Folder's own first contact with Japanese literature as a teenager. "I love the fact that the style of storytelling was so different to the West," says the director. "It's more contemporary, less structured. Here, everything is very structured, with a beginning and an end. The story goes from here to there, through different moments of emotion. I'm not so much into that." Okay, we're going to go ahead and skip through the history of manga and anime, because that's very long. The hyper-fecundity with Japanese manga to the present supreme position in France, it is currently the biggest manga importer, but the traffic only goes one way. French BD is generally ignored in Japan, and it will be a shock if Blind Willow Sleeping Woman, like fellow recent Japanese-infused French animations The Red Turtle and The Summit of Gods before, make a splash there. If it wants French-themed content, Japan creates it itself, like the French Revolution drama The Rose of Versailles. Japan is insular, it takes, says Chauvet. They're open, they're curious, but they take what they want, and it also nourishes when it comes to pop culture. Many Japanese creators themselves are more reciprocating, though. One of the Studio Ghibli's original touchstones when it was starting out in the 1980s was the surrealism and point of humor of Paul Grimmault's largely forgotten 1980 animation, The King and the Mockingbird. No one these days would accuse Ghibli of being anything other than an upstanding moral influence on young people. And France unreservedly embraces the breadth and variety of everything Japanese manga and anime has to offer. The pandemic only further intensified manga mania, brought by millennial parents who were the original early adopters, keen to share their passion with housebound offspring. Eiichiro Oda's One Piece, the phantasmagorically OTT pirate saga, is the best-selling top dog, the successor to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Emmanuel Macron's unknowingly down with the kids likes to slip it into his tweets. With the price for the rights for the new titles now sky high, Chauvet believes the French market could be hitting saturation point, or then again, maybe not. We've seen it before. The more we're in crisis, the more teenagers buy manga. So there you go. French loves Japan media.
Americans do too, right? Especially around your age. It's starting to get really popular.
Yes. I'm very into anime.
And this day in history, I did the wrong day yesterday. I did the 29th yesterday, so I don't have another one to do today. So we're going to go back to
the 28th.
Our members, our Congress. And today, we're going to talk about Robert Carlos DeLarge. Now, do you see him there? He's this guy right, in the back. See him?
Yeah.
All right. He died very young at the age of 31, so we're going to cover him. Robert C. DeLarge won election to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1870, one of 5 black representatives elected to a full term in the 42nd Congress in 1873. Sorry about opening the mic. Although a protracted contested election ended his term in office in less than 2 years, DeLarge participated in several landmark debates in the House floor, including the consideration of the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 and the Amnesty Act of 1872. DeLarge was committed to black civil rights in his home state of South Carolina, across the nation, and he implored Democrats and even his fellow Republicans to find solutions. The statesman, declared in 1871, regards the actual and acts upon it. The desirable, the possible, and even the probable furnishes but poor bias for political action. Robert Carlos DeLarge was born on March 15, 1842 in Aiken, South Carolina. Much is unknown about DeLarge's early family life, including whether or not he was born enslaved. He attended high school in Charleston, South Carolina, before working as a barber, tailor, and farmer. He later married and had a daughter, Victoria. During the Civil War, the Confederate government began to force men into hard labor construction fortifications for the city of Charleston. To avoid this fate, DeLarge worked on a Confederate Navy blockade runner that smuggled goods in and out of South Carolina. By 1870, he had amassed a small fortune and belonged to Charleston's elite circles, joining the Brown Fellowship Society, an exclusive mutual aid and fraternal organization founded by free black Americans in antebellum Charleston. After the war, DeLarge formed the Republican state government, worked for the Republican state government as an agent in the Freedmen's Bureau. He became an organizer for the South Carolina Republican Party, serving as important committees in several state conventions. He chaired the Credentials Committee in 1865, Colored People's Convention at Charleston's Zion Church, where he made impassioned speeches comparing the effect of Civil War to that of the American Revolution. At the 1867 South Carolina Republican Convention, he chaired the Platform Committee. He served on the Committee on Franchise and Elections at the state's 1868 Constitutional Convention. In 1868, DeLarge won his first elected office, serving as a state House of Representatives, where he chaired the Ways and Means Committee. He also served on the board of organization that sought resources for the living of mental illness, and member of the State Sinking Fund Commission, an institution charged with repaying public debt. In 1870, the legislature chose DeLarge as land commissioner, a position which he helped oversee the sale or transfer of small tracts of land. In 1870, DeLarge was one of several speakers at the large Republican meeting called for a new direction of the party. He joined a group of black South Carolina legislators and activists who criticized the faction of the white Republicanism for holding disproportionate power in the state and for entering politics for their own personal financial gain. DeLarge told the crowd that he joined the Republican Party because it professed equal right and privileges to all, and it wanted to maintain such a standard. In 1870, DeLarge set his sights in South Carolina's 2nd District, representing Charleston, Southeast, and Portia State of Congress. He secured the Republican nomination over the incumbent Republican Christopher Columbus Bowen, a former Confederate soldier turned Republican who has been elected to the House in 1868. After losing the primary, Bowen ran against DeLarge as an independent Republican in the general election. But DeLarge ultimately carved out a win by less than 1,000 votes in the majority black district after Bowen's allies in Charleston used patronage and job promises to court support for their candidate. Bowen formally challenged the electoral results, but DeLarge was sworn in on the 42nd Congress in 1871 on March 4th, assigned to the Committee on Manufacturers. DeLarge's efforts as first-term member were undermined by the large workload created by Bowen's decision to challenge the election results. Although he never introduced the bill during his truncated term in office, DeLarge engaged in debate on the House floor several times on significant legislation that shaped the ongoing process of Reconstruction in the South. He supported a bill providing amnesty to former Confederates who had been outlawed from holding office following the rebellion, but he was empathetic that this measure should be coupled with federal protection for loyal black and white Southerners from intimidation and violence. Get to the end. He lost re-election. DeLarge was not a candidate. DeLarge was not a candidate for re-election in 1872, and the 2nd District seat in the House was filled by South Carolina's Lieutenant Governor Alonzo J. Ramsier, who won the election that fall. DeLarge returned to the state capital in Columbia and later moved to Charleston after Governor Scott appointed him trial justice in that city. His health continued to decline in early 1874, and he died on February 14th at the age of 31.
Oh man, on Valentine's Day.
But
so young,
at the age of 30, what a life, 31.
Yeah. People were living crazy lives back then.
From basically slavery to the United States Congress by the time you're 31.
Yeah, I can't do that.
We think we live in fast times.
Yeah. All right, well, that's been Allison here from Europe talking about more protesting and not going to Amsterdam to do any fun stuff because it's a nuisance. And
one thing in history.
Huh? What?
Oh, go ahead. I thought it was my turn. Go ahead.
Oh. Hope to see you tomorrow for some sort more exciting news here from Europe. And well, now you can say your thing.
And more things for the United States tomorrow, which will be March 30th, almost the end of the month now. And I guess we don't have an April Fool's show, so hey, you're on your own. And that's today's March 29th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye.